Hi guys, so I've been really 50-50 for a couple of weeks now about doing this video because it's not really something I wanted the whole world to know about, but at the same time, if this could help just one person, then I'd hopefully be doing something good for the world. I don't really know what to say. I've never done such a serious video before and I never thought I would, because being really open about personal stuff is not something I really want to be doing online. Like, I don't want like the whole world to know everything about me and everything that's happened in my life. I would like some things to stay private and not known. But this is a topic that many people will relate to, you know, like young people going through it now, or like say like older adults that went through it as a teenager or as a child or whatever, and that is bullying. So nearly everybody's been bullied in their lives, and saying that it's not nice is the understatement of the year. I mean, I've been bullied for as long as I can remember. I was bullied in primary school because I had eczema, which was a lot worse when I was younger than it is now, and I'd get called all sorts for it. I'd get called stuff like a freak, a weirdo, you know, all the mindless insults that kids come up with at that age. And that was in primary school. And then as secondary school came, it got worse. Sorry, I keep touching my nose, got an itch. It got 10 times worse. I mean, it was slightly comforting that I went up to secondary school with a few people that were in my class through primary school, so I wasn't like in a completely new surrounding full of new people. There were people there that I did know quite well. But the bullying started probably year 7. I don't remember start point of when it happened, but I know that I was called a freak, a weirdo, you know, I was pushed around, talked to like dirt. You know, when I first started wearing makeup, I was told that I looked effing ridiculous. I mean, there's so much more that I could go on about, but I can't really remember everything. Like, it was just like a massive, never-ending vortex of just these words that were thrown at me, like, oh, you're a freak, you're weird, you know, nobody likes you, you're like all alone, like you've got no friends, nobody wants you around. And I'd be physically bullied, I'd be pushed around, I'd be tripped up, I'd be verbally bullied, called a freak and all that malarkey, and got to the point where I started to develop anxiety. Before I even knew what anxiety was, I'd be afraid of going anywhere near people. I wouldn't put my hand up in class because I didn't want any attention on me. I didn't want like the whole class to turn around and look at me. It just got worse and worse as time went on. When I was 14, I was introduced by someone who I was friends with out of school then to self-harming. This wasn't on purpose. They did tell me that I shouldn't do it and that not to do it. This is before I started doing it. They told me not to do it because it wasn't a very good idea, even though they were doing it, so a bit hypocritical. But this friend, who I'm not going to name because I don't blame her for the reason I started, because I could have found it out on the internet sooner or later, but I'm not going to name her. I'll just say she's called V, because that's what her name begins with, so I'll just leave her at that. She, I think, made a necklace, I think it was a necklace, out of blades from sharpeners, and back then with my innocent little mind, I questioned it because I didn't quite understand why she had a necklace with blades on it. I was like, why do you want blades from sharpeners? What are they going to do? And obviously she told me that she used them for self-harming. And then I guess that kind of stuck with me. And then when I started self-harming when I was about 14, I would use hair slides to unscrew the blade from sharpeners, and I would use that to self-harm. And I've even got a very faint scar on my wrist that luckily you can't see unless you know whereabouts it is from doing that. And I was doing that up until the age of maybe 17, 18. And I only stopped because I cut so deep at one point that I was scared that I was going to bleed to death. Because as much as I wanted to die, I wasn't cutting to die. I was just doing it to kind of like alleviate the pain. So I had physical pain to focus on rather than all the mental pain in my mind from what was being said to me at school. And I remember one time things got so bad that when I used to get ready for school, my mum would be upstairs getting ready for work. So when I went downstairs to pack my bag to go to school, I got a knife out of the kitchen drawer. Can't remember what knife it was. It was one of the black-handled ones. So it was quite a sharp one. And I took it to school. Because at my school, our bags weren't searched. I don't know if they are now back at my school, but they weren't when I was there. And I kept it hidden at the bottom of my bag. And then I can't remember what lesson it was. I think it might have been science maybe, when everything got a bit too much with the whole picking on me thing. I asked if I could go to the toilet, and I managed to sneak my bag out with me. And I just sat in the girls' toilets crying and cutting at my wrists. And then when I went back up to class eventually, I tried to stay in the toilets as long as I could so that like by the time I went back to class it was nearly ended so I could just go home, because I'm pretty sure this was the last lesson of the day. And this was year 11, so I would have been 15 at the time, because I'm pretty sure this was just before we finished year 11, so I must have been about 15, nearly 16. And it was quite a warm day, and for some reason my teacher told us, like all of us that had jumpers on just to take them off, and I refused to take mine off because I had my sleeves over my hand like that to cover my wrists because I didn't want anyone to see. And then when I eventually did take my jumper off because the teacher wouldn't stop nagging, I hid my arms under the table because it was one of those higher desks because it was a science class. So it was the higher desks with the stools, and I hid my arms underneath because I'm pretty sure it was just my left arm I would cut because of being right-handed. So I hid my left arm under the desk and had my right arm on top of the desk for like writing and, you know, Bunsen burners and all that malarkey. I was sat next to someone that I'd called my best friend at primary school. I'm going to call her N because her name begins with an N. I don't really want to be naming people in this because I don't want them to watch it and then be like, you know, that they don't remember it and all that malarkey. She saw the cuts and asked how I'd got them, so I went for the stupidest answer you could give, and I just said, oh, I got scratched by a cat. And I'm pretty sure they weren't bleeding at the time, but they were quite, you know, raw and red because they'd been done whilst I was in the toilets. And she probably knew deep down that I did it to myself. And she threatened to tell my teacher. I can't remember what my teacher's name was, but he was our science teacher with the bald head for chemistry. So if anybody I went to school with remembers his name, can tell me. She said that she was going to tell the teacher, so I begged her not to. and she said that she was going to tell my head of year, Miss Ricketts. I'm not sure if she ever did or not. I'm not entirely sure. I don't think she did. As far as I'm aware, she didn't, as far as I remember, but I'm not entirely sure, so I can't really make that a fact. I'm not entirely sure she did or not. But then she said to me that if she tells my head of year would tell my mum. And I'm pretty sure my mum knew what I was doing it, but I think she thought that I'd stopped because I'd kept my arms hidden. And normally I wear long sleeves anyway because it's just a habit. I like covering my hands up like that. So my mum didn't really think anything of it, and I didn't really want her to because I didn't want her to know what I was doing to my wrist, but it was the only way of coping. And obviously I didn't want her to find out because I didn't want anyone to make me stop. I didn't want anyone to force me to stop doing it because it was the only thing that was helping, weirdly enough. And I don't want to be like sugarcoating this and say, oh, don't do it because it doesn't help in the long run. I mean, I would not recommend doing it because I regret doing it, because I've got like a couple of faint scars from it, and anytime I see them it makes me want to cry because I just wish I hadn't gone through everything that I did at school which led me to do it. I mean, people always like, tell a teacher, tell a friend, tell your parents. I told my mum had gone into school about it, nothing was done. I told teachers at school, nothing was done about it. I told friends that told their head of years, like my best friend at school, Chloe, I'm pretty sure she told her head of year, who is the year below me, and still nothing was done about it. You could tell about 1,000 people at the school and nothing would ever be done about it. But they claim to have an anti-bullying campaign, which I just don't believe at all. So yeah, people were told at school, nothing was ever done about it. Nobody, I don't think anybody, teacher-wise, like staff-wise, ever found out about my self-harming. But they shouldn't have really needed to find out about me self-harming in order to do something about the bullying, because I would bunk school so often. I started bunking in year 8, and when I was in year 8, I must have been about 12, 13. I started bunking, and I would just sneak off into town and sit in the park on the swings until school finished. Well, I'd sit in the park until just before school finished, and then I'd start walking home because the park's a little bit further from my house than my school is, so I'd make time so it looks like I just walked home from school. And I was just bunking so often from year 8 up until year 11 because I just couldn't face going into school. I couldn't face with all like the torment and the bullying and, you know, all the verbal and physical pain I was going through that nobody was bothering to do anything about. Like, I was self-harming so bad that if I can find, I think, I'm not entirely sure, but I think I've got a private photo somewhere of how bad my cuts were when I was about 16, maybe 15, 16, that I sent to my friend V. Because she was worried about how much I'd done, because she knew about me self-harming, but obviously being in a different town and only seeing me, I think it was every weekend or every other weekend, she'd spend the weekend at mine. She couldn't really do much, and so when I was self-harming, I would do it when she wasn't around me. Say, like, if she was asleep, then I would do it so that she wouldn't be able to stop me. Because I didn't want anyone to see me self-harm, because I didn't want anyone, especially V, to try and stop me, because at the time we were like that, we were best friends, and I know she would have forced me to stop by just ripping the blade out of my hand if she had to. And I didn't want her to do that, so I would do it while she was asleep. And so nobody knew about me doing it still. Got to the point where I refused to go into school. I didn't do my GCSE exams at the end of year 11 because the whole bullying and torment just got so bad that I couldn't face going back into school after a study leave. I couldn't face going back to the place where I was basically being tortured every single day. And everybody just saw me bunking as just wanting to get away from school because, you know, typical teenager. But nobody seemed to realise that it was something a lot more than that. It wasn't that I didn't enjoy school, which obviously I didn't. It was more I couldn't face being around all these people that were just making me feel lower and lower and lower about myself. I mean, I've got no confidence. I've still got no confidence. I mean, people try and be nice to me now, say like on the internet, if I get a compliment, I'll say thank you to the person, but I don't believe it, because I've been told so many times that I'm ugly, that, you know, nobody'd love me and everything like that, that I just don't believe it. If somebody says to me, oh, you're pretty, oh, you're beautiful, I'm just like, you're lying, you know, why are you lying to me? Why are you being horrible and lying to me? Like, it's drummed into my head that if anybody's nice to me, they're just lying to me, that they're trying to get a reaction out of me. So anybody that was ever nice to me at school, I'd push away and be like, why are you, you know, why are you talking to me? Why are you following me? Why are you trying to, you know, pretend that you're being nice to me? Because I had it drummed into my head that everybody was out to get me. I was so paranoid of everybody around me. I was terrified. I wouldn't go near anybody. Like, when I walked home from school, I would, you know, go the way where the least kids went. Like, obviously, like, you know, when you walk out of school, there's going to be like a massive group that go one way and a few other groups that, you know, disperse into different directions to go get the bus home or walk home. So I'd go like, even if I had to go the longest way around just to, you know, be by myself and get away from people. I mean, it was absolutely fucking awful. And to this day, I still struggle with anxiety. I can't answer the phone to people because, you know, I'm scared. I don't like to, you know, video call people because I'm scared of, you know, I'm just scared of people seeing my face and be like, oh, you're ugly. I mean, when I do eventually video call people, like, I've got a friend, Tegan, who I've never met in person before, but we bonded over our love for Tokyo Hotel. And it took me, I've been talking to her for a good couple of months now, a good few months, and I've only just managed to start FaceTiming her because, you know, I've been so anxious about doing it, even though, if you think about it, there's nothing to be anxious about when it comes to just FaceTiming somebody that you've spoke to before and you've kind of, like, gotten quite close to. And, like, if anybody is going to phone me for whatever reason, I make sure that they give me warning so I can kind of, like, prepare myself and not get so anxious about it. And the same goes for if somebody tries to FaceTime me. I just get so panicky about everything. Like, I suffer with panic attacks, I suffer with anxiety, I suffer with depression. I mean, there are still times now where I want to self-harm, and I think the last time I did was just before my birthday, so maybe February, March time this year. And I'm pretty sure that was over a massive, massive argument with someone that is supposed to be my best friend, and I was terrified of losing them and I couldn't cope, and the only thing that I knew how to do in order to cope was to hurt myself because I thought that I deserved it. I thought that I'd pushed them away, you know, it's my fault, I deserve to be punished for it. And, you know, at school I always thought there's got to be something wrong with me, you know, like, people pick up on flaws that you didn't even realise you had. Like, people would take the mick out of me because my eyes are two different shapes, and I didn't even know that until they pointed it out. And now, because they pointed it out, I can't not see it, and it makes me so self-conscious. Like, they pick on me because my eyes are two different colours, they pick on me because I dyed my hair, and, you know, my hair grows quite quick, so, like, the gingery colour will come through. They pick on me for stupid, natural things that I couldn't do anything about. And it just made me feel so, so low that I wanted to die. I mean, I was dealing with a lot of shit with my parents splitting up when I first started secondary school. So I had that on top of all the bullying, you know. And I know pretty much everybody's bullied at school, but there's bullying and then there's tormenting, where you're pushing people around, you know, shoving them around, calling them this and that, you know, telling them to go die. I've been told to go and die multiple times at school before. And it's not bullying when they end up self-harming because you're torturing them so bad that they just want to, they'd rather have physical pain done to them by themselves than to have, like, all the hurt that's going in your ears from all these nasty people. like, to this day, I still struggle to believe that people actually care. Like, I have people that say that they're there for me, and then they don't end up being there when I need them. So with that and the whole bullying stuff, I still struggle to believe that I actually have anybody that cares about me. So because of the bullying, I feel more or less alone the majority of the time. Even now, I have not been bullied since I left school. I think I was being bullied still for about 1 or 2 years after I left school, and that was 2011, and I've not been bullied since. But it's all the bullying that I had at school. It's just stuck with me for so long that it still affects my life now. I refuse to leave my house because I'm so terrified of bumping into someone that I know. Anytime I walk down the street, if I was to walk past anybody, even if I don't know them, I'd feel so anxious and so paranoid that they were staring at me, that they were, laughing at me in their minds, thinking, oh, look at her, she's disgusting, she looks weird, she's a freak, etc. And I've had relationships that haven't worked out because of the constant paranoia and the constant low confidence, and everything's messed up because of that. So I can't even maintain a relationship because of what the bully's done to me. The majority of the time, I can't even maintain a friendship because of what the bullying has done to me. I mean, seeing Bex on EastEnders get bullied the exact same way that I did, minus the whole sex tape thing, is heartbreaking, and I can't watch it without wanting to cry, because it's like watching 15, 16-year-old me, get bullied just as bad at school, and it's absolutely heartbreaking to watch. But I just wanted to do this video to put it out there. Like, if anybody that I went to school with actually ends up seeing this and has realised what they actually did to me for all those years, if they realise and they're grown up enough now to apologise and say, I'm sorry for what I did to you, and I'm sorry that I acted like that, then that would be something. And if I can help someone that's being bullied now, if it's getting physical, talk to the police. If talk to anybody that you can. I know most schools don't do anything about it, but talk to the police, talk to your parents, talk to an aunt, an uncle, cousin, a friend, anything. Just talk to someone, and don't stop until something is done about it, because you can't just sit in silence and let yourself be bullied, because you don't deserve it. No matter who you are, no matter what you look like, what what you're into, your hobbies, everything like that. No matter what you are as a person, who you are as a person, you don't deserve to be bullied. Nobody does. So speak up to anybody and demand that they listen to you and that they do something, because I don't want anybody else to end up like me, where your whole life is ruined because of bullies. So